What is up, real estate family? My name is Mr. W and welcome to my YouTube channel. Now, if you are a real estate agent or if you are a real estate broker and you want to achieve two things, okay? If you want to generate more leads and close more deals, then click on the subscribe button as well as clicking on the notification bell just so that you're notified each and every single time that I upload, as well as if you find massive value in this video that I'm about to share with you guys right now, then just click on the like button. I always get it mixed up. I don't know if it's this way or that way. But anyways, enough with all the chit chat. Let's get straight onto the video. Now, just a quick disclaimer, okay? I just decided to record this video. Main reason why is because I'm gonna have a very hectic and a busy day. So this is the only time that I have scheduled to record this video. But now, because I decided to schedule this video right now, all of a sudden my neighbor decided that he's gonna do home renovations. I don't know. So it's a bit tricky because he's playing around with the drill and the nails as well. So we'll see how it goes. But if there is a little bit of noise, I just need you guys to be cognizant and aware that my neighbor is, he's doing a little bit of home renovation. So you hear that? Yeah. So I will try and wait and see if he is gonna continue. If he doesn't, then I'm gonna have to just find a way to make this work, okay? So let's get straight into the video. Okay, so I'm just gonna give off as much value as possible in the next 4 to 5 minutes, just in case my neighbor decides to, get the drill going again, okay? So what I wanted to speak about is how to become the best, or how to quickly become the go-to agent in your area, okay? And it's a question that has been popping up in my inbox, especially now because it's a new year and people just want to figure out what's the best way to actually become, the best go-to agent or the number one go-to agent in their area, without spending too much money on advertising or without spending too much money, on lead generation. What's the actual best method and how you can actually do this? So I'm actually going to teach you, or really just give you, something for you to think about that's really going to help you figure out and how to actually become a agent that is the number one go-to agent where people know, like, and trust you. So how you can actually become the go-to agent in your area, especially in 2020 moving forward. If you have seen my previous videos, I have been speaking about personal branding. I have been speaking about focusing on building your brand, apart from obviously the main strategy, which is, getting your ads out there, building up your database. Your personal brand is essentially what's going to be important. But right, this is what I actually want to talk about. You want to actually increase your intrinsic value, because your intrinsic value is essentially what's going to separate you from the other competition. So let me make an example, right? Let's take a look at cars, right? Cars are vehicles that can get you from point A to point B, okay? They keep you safe when it's raining. If you need to get to a certain specific point, you can do that, okay? So that's the nice thing about cars, is that they offer that convenience from getting you from point A to point B. That's the easiest and top of mind practical value that I can give you when it comes to vehicles, okay? Now when it comes to vehicles, there's certain and specific classes, okay? We've got your mommy vans, we've got your sports cars, and then we've also got your, entry-level vehicles. Okay, so your mommy vans are specifically catered to a specific niche, a specific market, right? For women who, not necessarily women, but it's basically a family car, right? And then you have your sports cars. That's basically and essentially driven for people, or let me rather say marketed for people who love, fast cars, who love performance. Okay, and then you have your entry-level vehicles. This is great for students, for first-time workers who really just want to get from point A to B without all the luxuries, okay? So that's the difference between, practical value and intrinsic value. In a sense where a sports car is going to be more expensive than your entry-level car. Why? Because it's got more power, it's probably got, carbon fiber, it's got all these different specs, right? Which make it expensive, luxurious, and appealing, okay? As opposed to your mommy vans and your basics entry-level car. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that positioning is essentially going to determine how you actually become a go-to agent in your area. So let me explain, right? When you're looking at a billion-dollar broker like Ryan Serhant, okay, he's a billion-dollar broker based in New York, and then you're looking at billion-dollar brokers based in California, which are the Altman brothers. The reason why they are billion-dollar brokers is all based on their positioning, right? So what they've done is that they've pre-framed, okay, their personal brand, one, to be experts in their field, to be trusted advisors, and number three, really just to endorse themselves so they can become a high authority in their area. Okay, now look at it this way. Most real estate agents won't necessarily think about this because everyone is basically doing the same thing. So when it comes to the Altman brothers, when it comes to Ryan Serhant, they basically pay a lot of money, right, to build their brand. So what do I mean? They pay to get on podcasts. They pay to get on blogs. They pay to get featured on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Why? Because what are they doing? They're pre-framing their audience so that they can have a higher perceived positioning as their competition. You know, that's essentially their secret, because I've actually did a little bit of more research on it. And I realized that what they did is that they've basically used pre-framing to position themselves as experts in their field, as go-to people in their field. Think about it, right? Even with all those real estate brokers and agents that actually have reality shows on TV, they did that solely for positioning, okay? Yes, obviously they did it for other reasons, but their main purpose is they did it for positioning. Why? Because if they're seen on TV, right, if they're seen, you know, with all these $1 million listings, guess what? A lot of people are going to go to them and see them as trusted advisors. Why? Because their positioning is now at a higher level. And that's essentially what separates them from the average real estate agent. They've got a higher intrinsic value. And it goes back to the analogy of the mommy van, the sports car, and the entry-level vehicle. Think about it. Your sports cars, Lamborghini doesn't advertise their cars on TV because their target audience isn't there. So essentially what you want to do is that you basically want to pre-frame your audience to view you as the expert in your field. Now, how do you do that? That's something that you need to start doing a little bit more research on. Okay, where is your audience hanging out online? You know, or where do they hang out in public, right? Are they at malls? Are they at community centers? Where are they, right? And then what you want to do is that you want to position yourself as a person or a go-to person, real estate agent in the area. Now, again, people might be like, oh, well, I already pay to be on, you know, I pay for billboards and malls, etc., so I could position myself to be that authority. Well, here's the thing, right? When it comes to billboards, when it comes to also, you know, newspaper ads, that isn't necessarily a commodity. Let me rather say that isn't necessarily an asset anymore because of the low barrier entry level. So what do I mean by that? It's easy now. Like anyone can be on a billboard. Anyone, you know, can put an ad on a newspaper. So it's no longer valuable. So you need to start figuring out what is valuable that people don't necessarily know, you know, how to get into, that's going to give you a high positioning level. So for example, getting PR from a, you know, well-reputable magazine or a newspaper, or featuring on, you know, TV or even on radio, on podcast, you need to start figuring these things out so that you can obviously pre-frame your audience so that they see you as an authority. Okay, imagine if you had to be on a huge television network where you're speaking about what you're doing. Or imagine if you actually got approved for a reality show, right, where you basically show a day in the life of what you do, as well as you closing deals and really just showing your life, right? You're gonna have a high positioning, right? Because now you're pre-framing your audience so that they can see you as a high authority. And that's essentially what you want to start focusing on. Okay, now I'm not saying that now all of a sudden you need to go and pay for blog sites, or, you know, you need to go and pay to be on podcasts. But it's very simple and very easy to get attention from these content creators where they can start reaching out to you. So number one, what you can do is you can actually start, you know, going on Facebook and then start creating engagement ads, right? Start creating ads, specifically video content, where you show what you do, right? Where you maybe just go into a home and, you know, sort of like list it as an MTV Cribs. You know, go inside the home, show the living room, show the dining room, show the kitchen, really show them who you are and what you do. Okay, and then what's that going to do is that it's going to start building engagement. People are going to start liking it. People are actually going to start mentioning other people, like, wow, you know, look at this. This is interesting, right? Because now you're doing something different and you're positioning yourself as someone who is the go-to person in your area, right? So what's going to happen is that those kind of videos will start going viral. Why? Because a lot of people are now interested in what you're doing, especially if you're giving off a ton of value. Okay, then this is when you slowly start to naturally gravitate, all these content creators that want to get a piece of you. This is where people who own podcasts want to reach out and be like, hey, I saw your videos on Facebook, you're actually quite popular, or I saw what you're doing on Facebook. I'd really love to get you on my podcast to see what you're doing, how you're doing things, and what advice can you give other real estate agents. Think about it, right? If you are a content creator, if you maybe own a podcast, or whether you own a television network, etc., you always want to ensure that you're giving as much value to people, right, who are watching. And also at the same time, you don't just want to get a random or regular Joe who's just doing average things. You obviously want to get someone with potential, right? Someone who's actually doing something out there, right, that is obviously getting their name recognized. And that's essentially what you want to start focusing on. Start focusing on increasing your intrinsic value. The same thing with the sports car. Lamborghini doesn't need to advertise on TV because their audience is not on TV, right? The car itself speaks wonders, right? Whenever you see a Lamborghini, you can't help but just notice. Look at it because it's beautiful. It sounds beautiful. It makes that noise. It roars, right? And that itself is marketing. It does its own marketing. So you want to start focusing on how can you increase your intrinsic value, because best believe, the $1 billion brokers, the top performers, compared to you, right? They have a high intrinsic value, and that's why people will always consistently go to them. That's why they will always be the go-to agents in the area, because they have a higher intrinsic value. But how did they get to that point? They started pre-framing their audience by getting themselves right there, in a sense where they started investing in their personal brand. Okay, they started reaching out to content creators. They started advertising who they are, their brand, so that they can have a higher positioning. Another example is Grant Cardone. If you do not know Grant Cardone in the real estate industry, then you've been living under a rock. But Grant Cardone is essentially a $1 billion real estate investor. He went from owning 20 apartments to 6,000 apartments right now, right? He's literally got a $1 billion net worth company, okay? And that's all under real estate. So how did he get to that point? Because I'm pretty sure there's other $1 billion, real estate investors. But Grant Cardone is the go-to guy, especially when it comes to real estate. Why? Because he's positioned himself that way, right? He invested in advertising. He invested in building his brand so that, it will essentially start building his business after that. Now he's got a company called Cardone Capital, where he basically buys property. And, this is where you can essentially start investing in his property acquisition company. And it's doing very well. Why? Because he's got a high perceived value. His intrinsic value is right here, right? Your Gary V's as well. Gary Vaynerchuk has got a high intrinsic value, okay? If you had to find a regular marketer who does lead generation as opposed to Gary V, right? Let's just say, for example, Gary V's company, Vaynerchuk Media, and the lead generation company are both exceptional when it comes to doing what they do. But the only difference between the lead generation company and Gary V's company is that the lead generation company doesn't have that intrinsic value that Gary Vaynerchuk's company has. Why? Because Gary Vaynerchuk has consistently always focused on building his personal brand, and that's why he will always get more clients, because his company has more intrinsic value. So that's what you want to start focusing on. How can you actually start building your intrinsic value? So if you guys found a lot of value in this, let me know in the comment section. I'm also going to think about maybe doing another presentation, or maybe just creating a presentation format, one where I can really just emphasize this. The main reason why, because this lovely neighbor of mine, I don't know where he is right now. My lovely neighbor is, really doing home renovations, and it's really going to be a bit redundant for me to just try and get my point across, especially if it's going to be making a noise, and I really don't want to disturb, you guys getting as much value as possible for my videos. So if you find a lot of value in this, let me know. Click on the like button as well as subscribe if you haven't been subscribed, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys, and see you guys in the next video.